Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
The government's initiative on starter homes for the first-time buyers is due to get underway this year. But the housing backlog is so big that it could take decades to resolve. Now, back in 1981, almost a third of English households were council homes. Today, that number has dropped to less than 1 in 10. Jeremy Cook asks whether it's possible to start building a new generation of council houses.
Brick by brick. New homes for housing crisis Britain. And not just any new houses. These are council houses. They're a rare sight, but this is Birmingham, where they've built more council houses in the past 7 years than any other local authority, on a mission to tackle a housing waiting list that stands at 18,000 people. The Osmonds have been in their flat for 8 years, but the family has long outgrown the space available.
If we want to play, we have to just play there for 10 minutes because we don't have enough space.
Now they've heard it's their time to move into one of Birmingham's new council homes.
We've been trying to get a house and we never expect to get a new house.
Cambridge is one of a handful of local authorities who've just qualified for government money to start building council houses. But there are warnings that it will take 20 years to fix a problem that's already been around for decades.
The fundamental problem is that government stops us doing what we need to do. The total value of all of our housing is £1.5 billion. If they just gave us the freedom to borrow against that, we could build 10,000 homes over the next 20, 30 years.
The government insists that the number of council houses being built today is at its highest rate since 1996 and that there are billions of pounds available to fund them. But the numbers are creeping back from an all-time low in 2004 when the UK built just 130 council homes. Hard to believe that in 1953 that number was a high of 245,000. Homes for the baby boomers and beyond.
Even by present standards, these houses are almost luxurious. The dinette has a serving hatch to the kitchen.
Today, it all looks very different. Aging tower blocks, once the future, are being torn down, clearing the way for a new approach to modern social housing.
And these are completed?
They are completed.
There are people living in these already?
New council houses and new houses for sale.
Now, in Birmingham, it's back to the future. New homes by any means necessary.
We're also bringing empty properties back into use in the city, and we're also, where necessary, using compulsory purchase orders. So we're using all the toolkit, really.
But when council homes are built, they do change lives. The Osmonds get a first look at their new house. And for the kids, their first garden. But for most of the 1.4 million on England's council house waiting lists, this is still a distant dream. Jeremy Cook, BBC News, Birmingham.
Now, ministers say it is a serious attempt to help get first-time buyers onto the housing ladder. 2017 will see the launch of new plans to create thousands of discounted starter homes across England. But even with a discount of 20% below market price, critics say the properties will still be beyond the reach of many of those who would seek to benefit. Our correspondent Andy Davies reports now from Bristol, which is one of the 30 pilot areas for the scheme.
Average house prices in the UK rose steadily through 2016. In city after city, there weren't enough homes on the market then, nor will there be in 2017, we're told. First-time buyers venture into a new year with an old problem. And in Bristol today, ideas of home ownership among the young elicit a familiar response.
It's impossible. No one my age can afford a house. No one 30 can afford a house.
What about buying?
No way. No way, Jose.
I've kind of just got used to the idea that I'm probably never going to get on the property ladder. I'm 22 and I just don't think it's just not possible anymore.
No, I agree.
Cue another housing announcement. Building will begin later this year, said the government on its new Starter Home scheme. Unlike these, starter homes will be built exclusively for first-time buyers aged between 23 and 40 and sold to them at a discount of at least 20% below market value.
This was the local cinema which closed down many years ago.
The scheme applies only to England. Bristol is among the first wave of local authorities promised funding to help fast-track starter home developments from brownfield sites like this.
On this site it will just be about 35-40 houses, but in total we'll be building around 300.
Are people going to be able to afford these houses?
Well,
they're going to be 20% discount, but they're still going to be expensive.
Well, unfortunately, house prices in Bristol and private rents have gone through the roof, and these will obviously be capped.
Starter home prices will be capped at £450,000 in London, £250,000 elsewhere.
So the government is moving ahead with its new starter home scheme, a scheme incidentally which came with a pledge in the Tory party manifesto of 2 years ago. And that said that by 2020 there would be 200,000 of these new homes.
So is that still achievable? In response, the government told us merely that more details will follow in the Housing White Paper later this month. Labour's Shadow Housing Secretary said no one believed that target was now possible. For others, there are broader concerns about who will actually benefit from this scheme.
If these homes are built in addition to any homes that are low rent or part rent, part buy type schemes, then they are welcome, but they're only typically going to help people who are slightly better off and already slightly near to buying as it is. What we need to see the government doing, as it committed to in the autumn, is focusing on helping people who are on more ordinary incomes, building the kind of genuinely affordable homes that people can either rent long term or buy.
The Housing Minister today said the £1.2 billion allocated to help fund starter home developments was just one part of a wider strategy. We need to get this country building more homes, he said. For some, now a well-worn political mantra.
Andy Davis reporting, but what of those in insecure rented housing? According to the latest figures from the Citizens Advice Service, more than 1 million families housed in the private sector are in short-term rentals of just 6 months or less. The wait for a more permanent home was the situation faced by the family of filmmaker Daisy May Hudson. After being evicted, she, her mother and younger sister spent a year in hostels before being rehoused. In a moment, we'll talk to her about the impact it had on her family, as well as talking to the Conservative MP Chris Philp. But first, here's an extract from her documentary Halfway, which tells the story of a traumatic year of homelessness.
I felt like I'd let both of you down. I've never felt like that in my life. I think I've always done the best I ever could.
I've learned to block most things out.
What, all feelings?
Yeah.
Me too. I just thought I could sort this one. We're not going to live in a hostel. I work hard, and I provide. And here we are.
Well, Daisy May Hudson is with me, and we're also joined by the Conservative MP and member of the Treasury Select Committee, Chris Philp. Daisy May Hudson, tell me first of all, what was that year like?
I think it was extremely traumatic. We were kind of in this liminal space where we had no information. We didn't know how long we were going to be in there, and that really plays quite heavy on your mental health and kind of your ability to make further life decisions. You're kind of stuck in this prison.
I mean, watching the documentary, it is quite clear it has a crushing effect, I would say, on your mother and your younger sister, who feature in the film very heavily. What would you like MPs like Chris Philp and his government to do for families like yours?
Wow, that's a big ask. I mean, housing is a basic human right that everybody in the UK deserves a right to a home, to be able to live in that home in peace. And right now there are up to 1 million families living in temporary accommodation. I think that's a disgrace for the UK to kind of to bear that.
Chris Philp?
Well, first of all, I'd like to congratulate Daisy May for making such a moving documentary. I've seen the trailer and I can see how much it affected her and her family's lives. And she's right, a single family who's homeless or in temporary accommodation is a family too many. The fundamental problem we have in the UK is that the population is going up by about 400,000 a year, so you need about 200,000 new homes per year to keep pace with population growth. But over the last, really 10 years, we've only been building between about 100 and 150,000 homes a
But
year.
the Conservative government and coalition haven't been building enough.
Well, it's gone up. So when Labour left office, it was about 100,000 a year. It's gone up to 165,000 a year, but that still isn't high enough. And, you know, two things the government are doing which are beginning to help. One is a huge programme of affordable house building. So there's £8 billion available between now and 2021 to build literally hundreds of thousands of affordable homes. That includes social for rent homes and even council homes.
I want to stop you there just because the question is, are these homes affordable? You were criticised by many people when you said, you know, a 10,000 deposit was achievable. You didn't say easily, but you said it was achievable. But is it, though? There are many people that will never make that amount of money. They will never get that deposit.
So I think you can't just sort of generalise. There are different kinds of affordable housing. So, for example, social for rent affordable housing, so provided by registered social landlords, Hyde Housing Association, those kind of people, is typically about 50 to 60% of full market rent. It's quite a big discount. Now, starter homes, that's a different kind of affordable housing. That's for people who are looking to buy their own home at a 20% discount. In a borough like Croydon, which I represent, two people earning about £20,000 a year each can afford a starter home with a £10,000 deposit. Now, I'm not saying it's easy, but I think it's a big step in the right direction.
Daisy May Hudson, is it a big step in the right direction? I mean, this is a big issue. You accept that?
Yeah, I think you really hit the nail on the head, kind of, when we hear this rhetoric by the government that we're building more homes. What homes are they? Because the kind of people that are desperately affected by the housing crisis are lower economic bracket. Often they can't afford the kind of rates that we're being offered for starter homes. I think, you know, we need to build more council housing. We need that safety net. We need to fix the rental market because that's completely unaffordable.
On that point, that would be a bold thing to do, wouldn't it be, to tackle the issue of rents for families like Daisy May?
Yeah, and that's what the £8 billion for the socially affordable housing is there to do. So, as you say, starter homes are not necessarily for everybody. You do need to have a certain level of income, much lower than at the moment, but still it's not for everybody. Sadly, I'd like it to be for everyone, but the truth is it isn't. That's where social housing provided by either the local council or a social housing provider comes in, and that's what the £8 billion over the next 5 years is there to provide. You need both in order to have a complete set of solutions covering the whole population.
Is there anything you're hearing that makes you confident that things will change? Your family have moved out now into a much better place, but is there anything you're hearing that makes you feel confident things will change?
I mean, homelessness figures, street homelessness has doubled since 2010. The numbers are continuing to rise, yet we're being told constantly that things are being done to kind of counter this housing crisis. I mean, we're in dire straits.
Daisy May Hudson, I'm sorry, Chris Phil, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much. Thank you.